¿Te preguntas por qué un dinosaurio está haciendo una bronquioscopía en una convención pulmonar tan seria? Si te lo preguntas, entonces creo que probablemente estamos cumpliendo con lo que estamos tratando de hacer. Hola, bienvenido al canal de YouTube de la red de HPS. Somos una comunidad de personas con HPS, sus familiares y sus seres queridos que estamos luchando por encontrar una cura. Nuestro objetivo es crear conciencia, financiar la investigación y proporcionar apoyo a nuestras comunidades de HPS. Estamos muy contentos de que nos hayas encontrado. Para obtener más información, visita nuestra página de web a www.hpsnetwork.org. Únete a nuestra lista de correo y comienza a participar. Hola, bienvenido a San Diego. Cada año la red de HPS se une a más de 14,000 médicos, enfermeras, terapeutas respiratorios, investigadores y organizaciones de todo el mundo para la conferencia de ATS. ATS significa Sociedad Torácica Americana y cada año celebran una conferencia que se enfoca en la salud respiratoria.
Going into the opening ceremony.
Yes.
Whatever your deity is, mine is God above, and whatever your deity is, let's just think about that and let's hope to be an instrument of peace. That whatever we say helps HPS or helps somebody else. But thank you everybody for coming. Let's have a group hug and huddle. We can do it. Off we go.
Durante una semana están aquí reunidos, compartiendo, aprendiendo y colaborando, y nosotros formamos parte de este acontecimiento mundial. La red de HPS es una de las 15 organizaciones de pacientes que ocupan un puesto especial en la Sociedad Torácica Americana, la llamada Mesa Redonda de Asesoramiento Público, o PAR, por sus siglas en inglés. De este modo, se incorpora la voz, la perspectiva de los pacientes a la comunidad de la neumología. Es un honor absoluto para nuestra organización estar aquí. Y esta conferencia nos brinda una oportunidad única y breve de hacer todo lo que podamos, y quiero decir todo lo que podamos, para atraer a lo mejor de lo mejor a nuestra mesa de información. Queremos que nunca olviden el día que conocieron a la red de HPS por primera vez.
So when I started to try to figure out how to reach subspecialists, pulmonologists in the field. So we were looking at HPS and looking at it as organ systems and trying to figure out, do we conquer hematology? Do we conquer gastroenterology? Do we conquer pulmonary medicine? And basically because we are a finite organization with a limited amount of money, not a lot of people, we I thought that we should really concentrate on the organ that gives us the most trouble. So that was pulmonary. That was pulmonary medicine and lung disease. So I was kind of scratching my head as to how to reach pulmonologists about a genetic disorder. Like, how do they connect the dots between genetics and lungs? And subspecialists have a tendency to be very tunnel visioned on their organ system. Like, they really hone into their organ system. We need to reach pulmonologists. Are they going to come to us? Am I going to invite pulmonologists to kind of get to know us? You know, bring Ashley to pulmonologists, like, which I've done. Or am I going to go to where they live? And so I decided that let me find out where they group. There are a couple of societies with pulmonary medicine. There's a society called CHEST, and there's a society called the American Thoracic Society, and there's the American Lung Association. So I'm like, how do I figure this out? And what I did was I really wanted to reach clinicians and bench researchers. I wanted PhDs and MDs. So I looked at the goal and the makeup and what figured out those societies. And so I discovered that while CHEST is an amazing society, no doubt whatsoever, they are really focused in clinical care, bedside care, which I wanted too. But I also wanted PhDs. I want bench research because we don't have a treatment. And even though we have great clinical doctors and we need them educated, we don't have a treatment. So I looked at the American Thoracic Society. I wanted science, and that was the American Thoracic Society. So I realized that they have these big conventions, these big meetings, and I wanted to be a part of that. It's like, let's do that. And it was an exorbitant expense to get a booth on the floor of the American Thoracic Society. We couldn't afford that. We can't afford that. So I'm like, all right, well, we got to get there. And I grabbed a friend, actually, another mom of a kid with a kiddo with HPS. And I decided that we would travel to the conference. It was in, I'm embarrassed to say how long ago it was, but it was like 2002. And we went to the conference, and all I could muster up was the strategy of making a scientific poster, like a poster about HPS, describing HPS, the people, the founder's effect, how many people we have, the symptoms, the characteristics. And I then went to this convention center that had a billion people running around, all lung doctors, and spent a little time looking at where the most traveled escalator was. So I found this escalator that everybody was going up and down this escalator, and I'm like, all right, that's our spot. So I had my duct tape with us, and I put our poster on the side of the escalator. And then I wasn't going to stand there for 4 days, so I went and snuck into one of because I didn't have like a tag to get into these sessions, but I snuck into a session and pulled out 2 chairs, put them next to our poster, and there we sat for days with hard candies, and we would run after doctors and mention HPS. We had our pamphlet and our hard candy, and we're like, this is HPS, and kind of chase them all around. It was really funny and I guess odd, and really happy to report we didn't have to sit there that long in a way. We were there for only like 2 days until somebody came by and said, well, what are you doing? Like, why are you sitting there? Because it was funny that even though we're strangers sitting there at the side of an escalator, nobody threw us out either, which I would have expected us to be tossed out of the building. But we didn't get tossed out. And we actually were talked to very respectfully and were invited to the first dinner of the Public Advisory Roundtable of the American Thoracic Society. So this doctor, Dr. William Martin, decided that it would be really of interest to the American Thoracic Society to put the patient face on the work that everybody does, right? So what is everybody doing at the American Thoracic Society trying to cure these diseases? And he decided it would be advantageous, encouraging, and maybe inspiring to gather some patients. But the way he did it was he actually gathered patient organizations to be the public arm of the ATS. So we're the patient face of the work that they do. And I met all the people in PAR, and from there I was asked to join PAR and be a member of that organization. It wasn't long before I was on that organization that they asked me to be in the executive arm of that, and I was incoming chairperson, and then I became chairperson. The American Thoracic Society, that was really, really early for societies to involve patients. And I can say that the American Thoracic Society was leading in this effort. They actually were out in front of this, better than other societies, and still to this day are better than other societies. And they were so true to their word, putting patients first and putting patients embedded in the society, that they chose to let us have a seat on the board. And then all the committees of the society had a PAR member sitting at the committee. So it was really exciting that the patient face was allowed to be embedded in every single thing that the ATS did. So we're at the ATS. That we accomplished. Check. We did that. Now, how are we going to stand out? Like, what are we delivering? We need to make a memory. We need to imprint ourselves on these researchers' brains. Nonetheless, we need to gather researchers, right? We don't have enough researchers. We still don't have a treatment. We need really smart brainiacs to really embrace us. So how are we going to do that? So really, you got to look at what you got. And our organization is short of money. Like, we don't have a lot of money. We don't have 1 million people. So we're not this huge public health crisis. So what we have is creativity and really talented HPS people. So I started to think, like, how are we going to make an impact? And one of the ways that we notoriously get people to really embrace us is with singing. And the girls, and when they sing, it just really, makes people happy. And I also feel like I want to clothe us in gratitude, right? I want to make us be a happy organization that people would embrace and enjoy to work with. We have to stand out in a crowd, no doubt. We have to stand out. We have to be a memory. We have to make something click.
What are we? So I say thank you for the research, for giving it to me.
Basically, we parody songs, and I make the songs, I change the songs into research songs or grateful songs or a song about their lab or a song about proteins, and we just make it fun. And I can tell you that it has meant a lot to a lot of people. We are notorious for this, and I think that it did the trick. I really do. Early on in the HPS network history, I learned that platelets have dense bodies and speckles, and our platelets have only butter cookies. They don't have the dots. And of course, it's obvious that I love food, so that immediately brought me to cookies, to explain to new families like the difference between platelets. So to our booths, we bring chocolate chip cookies and butter cookies so that we can prove to, you can visualize our platelets versus normal platelets. These are doctors who are working in laboratories that never really work with patients, but they work with micrographs and microscopes, and so to have pictures of cells was going to really turn them on. When you're working with clinicians, you have patients. When you're working with PhDs, you have cells. So I was going after, making their boat float. And that's worked, because we have people that come by all the time laughing at our cookies. And I can tell you that over the years, I have doctors calling me up, strange doctors that I never knew or heard of, call me up and talk about the butter cookies and the chocolate chip cookies. And it's so funny because it's like, well, that was us, the HPS network, that came up with that idea, and it's used in science now. It's kind of funny. We're really getting darn good at this. And this year at the ATS, we had a wonderful visitor come to our New York conference, and it was this dinosaur that was just unbelievable, and came to our dinner and our entertainment. And this special, wonderful dinosaur came to the ATS conference. How do we make that make sense? Because it was such a cool idea and such a cool thing to do. And I'm like, well, let's go right to the heart of the matter, and let's hold a sign that says, please don't let us go extinct. So I really think that we are outdoing ourselves with ways to make ourselves stand out, for sure. But it's really fun to try to be creative. I guess we could be sad. I honestly could cry now. I could just cry right this minute because we don't have a treatment. And it's hard, and it's just annoying to work this hard and this long and not get anywhere. And I could focus on that, and I could just not be able to do much. But I love my daughter so much that I gotta think of anything, absolutely anything, that could get us help and move the science, move the needle. And I think that if I don't laugh, and if we don't laugh, and if we don't make people laugh, we could just cry. Because I obviously could do that any moment I think of this whole big picture. What brings us back? It's certainly expensive. This is not a cheap weekend. It's always in a city that costs a lot of money to be here. And I can't, we're a team. It takes at least 5 or 6 people to be at the ATS. What is the return on investment of our time, of getting 5 or 6 people traveling here and taking their time? And so it's immeasurable. It's actually almost immeasurable. Some of it's easy. We work with the PAR, and because of the Public Advisory Roundtable and our work there, we have been given the gift to have ATS partnership grants. So we can give a little bit of money with the ATS doubling that money, and then that money gets advertised by ATS out to the science community, and people apply for that money. And then the ATS in their back offices actually evaluate the applications and they rate them. It's peer reviewed, and it's peer reviewed by really great people like pulmonologists that are research pulmonologists and PhDs. So we get the value of the doubling of the money, and we also get the peer review, which we can't do. We can't do that in-house. And we get the back-end management of that grant with a money doubling situation. So we have been doing this, I think we're on our 7th or 8th round of awarding these grants. And that has been incredibly valuable. So the people that we give this small amount of money to, it comes out to $80,000 collectively over 2 years, are able to then do some work on HPS and then take that work and apply for a bigger grant, which is like a K award. And those are about $750,000. And then they're able to take that work and go for an R1. And those are $1.5 million to $2.5 million. We have successfully done that several times. Not only that, the doctors that we have given these grants to are still researching HPS. They're still in the fold. We really haven't lost any of them. And that's growing our research network, which is what we needed to do. And that's why we come here. Another unbelievable outcome was we were thinking about Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico has so many needs. It needs so much. It's how do we do that? And, are we able to do it by ourselves, which is obviously not true. So I started to look at people that interest me, doctors that interest me in this, and that had a Puerto Rican background. And then I would look up their name and their bios and stuff, and I found this doctor that I really liked, really personable, gregarious guy, and found out that he was trained in Puerto Rico. So I spent maybe 2 or 3 years at the ATS getting our team, our on the ground ATS team, and the singers to really pay attention to this doctor and kind of chase him around a little bit and sing to him. And he really embraced the situation when I asked him, could you help us in Puerto Rico? And he was, enamored by the girls and the songs, and he then decided that he wanted to give back to the island that he came from and that he trained in, and decided to go down there and help us. And that was Dr. Jesse Roman, and it launched the clinics in Puerto Rico.
It's sort of interesting. I've said this many times. At a time of my career when I was looking for purpose, this woman gave me purpose. And these people have become family to me. I think if you stick around long enough, you will find the same thing. And you'll be proud of it. So thank you so much.
And that was from us chasing him around the ATS. More recently, I could give you story after story of the benefits of these relationships that we built. But last year when we were here, we had a meeting. It was the meeting of the Rare Lung Disease Consortium that occurs at ATS here. And I've been a part of that since started here. And I was sitting down and I was talking to a doctor about our needs and like getting really nervous because Dr. Grchico left the NIH and we didn't really have a place for our explants. You know, the lungs that you don't need, those bad lungs that are out of you after you've gotten good lungs and transplanted. Those explants, that's what they're called, had nowhere to go anymore. And that is losing a lot of science. And I was talking to one of the doctors and I just said, you know, we don't have a biobank. And he's like, Donna, I love the HPS network. I'll do that for you. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So for free, we got a doctor, Vanderbilt University, because they know the HPS network, because we've been coming to the ATS, because they have gotten seed money. And he's like, I'd love to do that for the HPS network. And for free, we have a biobank for our explants. I mean, it's an amazing place to come and kind of state our needs and figure out who might help us. And this is a wealth of people who are really, really, really willing to help. This year, we saw pharmaceutical companies' van, and we're really excited, like light bulbs go off, and we're really excited to try to make that van happen for the island of Puerto Rico. And hopefully even Kristen brought her brother in, and it's now a family affair. And we're gonna just see if we can build a van for Puerto Rico for clinical work, clinical trials, drug trials. This is all in preparation for the day that there is a drug and that we can get our people all organized to load it fast, get through it, and get everybody on it to try to push a treatment and a cure.
Entonces, ¿por qué un dinosaurio está haciendo una bronquioscopía? Pues por la misma razón por la cual cantamos y por la cual venimos a ATS todos los años, para que nos vean. Estamos aquí para conseguir investigación, crear conciencia y poner nuestro nombre ahí en el mundo, para que cuando estos genios se vayan de esta conferencia dentro de una semana, se acuerden del dinosaurio que hace bronquioscopía, de las cantantes y de nuestra mesa de información. Y ojalá quieran saber más. Aquí tienes 4 maneras de ayudar. Número 1, comparte este video. Número 2, suscríbete a nuestro canal y a nuestras cuentas en las redes sociales. Número 3, visita nuestra página de web. Número 4, lo más importante, donar, donar y donar. Cada dólar ayuda. No podemos hacer el trabajo que hacemos sin sus donaciones y los necesitamos a todos, de verdad. Y te necesitamos a ti, a ti, a ti y a ti. A ti, a ti, a ti, a ti, a ti.
Me?
Yeah, you.
A ti, a ti y a ti. A ti, a ti, a ti.